Now, how about them damn Celtics?
And we are back with another episode of How About Them Celtics. Sam and I are here recording on Monday, October 7th, and we are going to be joined shortly by Ben Rohrbach of Yahoo Sports. He joined us for a conversation today. We talked about the Celtics, largely just about them repeating how their starting lineup looks heading into next year, stuff like that. Sort of a general conversation about the state of the Celtics. It was fun. Ben was great, but we're here to give you the pod intro before we jump into that. How you doing today, Sam?
Doing good. Pod's done. We're getting it over with, getting it finished right now, and it's going to be a good conversation, like Jack said, so make sure you guys stick around for that. We talk Celtics with Ben, we talk NBA with Ben, we do Rat List with Ben, we do it all. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, comment, tell us what you thought of the weekend of preseason games. Hit the bell. You don't want to miss any of our daily uploads. New stuff coming every single morning. Full pods Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. So yes, let's not waste any more time, I suppose, right? Who wants to listen to me?
Yeah, I wish our conversation with Ben went about 10 minutes longer because Shams just moved over to ESPN as we ended our conversation. So we didn't talk about that. But yeah, Shams Charania, newest ESPN reporter, probably got the biggest bag you've ever seen in your life from ESPN.
I am at least happy it didn't go to Schefter, not because I don't like him, but because I didn't want to have to put on Schefter notifications and then get NFL stuff to my phone.
Do you know what I realized? This is probably why Zach Lowe got let go.
Maybe.
They probably want to give a lot of money to Shams. And they decided Zach Lowe was the cut over Kendrick Perkins. Anyways, like Sam said, we won't waste too much of your time. Let's jump into our conversation with Ben Rohrbach. It is our pleasure to welcome Ben Rohrbach of Yahoo Sports from the show. How you doing today, Ben?
Great. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.
Thanks
I said this before we hit the recording button. Your bio says too much Boston. I like read it to do some research, and I saw BU. I saw a reporter in 2010. I saw Boston. I was like, all right, well, this just sounds perfect. So thank you for coming on and talking Boston Celtics basketball with us.
Yeah, I got my start on the Celtics beat, so haven't gone too far away from that, even though I've taken on some more NBA stuff. So it's all good.
Love to see it. Well, I think the reason that it made sense to me most is you did a series ranking number one options, number two options, all the way through 5, basically giving you a starting lineup power rankings in the NBA. And the Celtics, spoiler alert, did pretty good in the starting lineups series. What gave you the idea to do that? And I mean, Tatum was 4th, Jalen and KP I think were 3, and then Drew and Derek were 1 because once you get to the fifth options, I suppose, in the team, those guys kind of just like that's the whole point of trading for them if you're Brad Stevens. What gave you the idea for that article, and how did you sort of go about ranking them? Was it like you looked at stats? Was it sort of subjective? Like how did you rank all the options based on like?
Yeah. The first part. Actually, the inspiration was kind of the Celtics because I knew that they would be the only team. This isn't the reason, like the sole reason I did it, but I knew they would be one of the teams that had somebody up there on each spot. And I thought that was what separated them and made them the champions last year. So it seemed like a good way to set the table for this season and look at the starting lineups across the league, see how other teams close the gap on them maybe, and see, if there was still that separation on the 4th and 5th guys of the starting lineup for White and Holiday seemed to be what separated them and made them the team they were last year. So I kind of wanted to just it was for my own purpose to see all that, but then turn it into content. You know what I'm saying? So there was that. And then the second part, you said, like the hardest part was kind of figuring out who, after the really like the second guy on each team, what constituted like a third option and a 4th option and a 5th option. The third option was really like considering maybe like Draymond Green from the in their prime Warriors as like a star, a guy who stars in his own role. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for the Celtics, that was I went with Porzingis, even though you could probably make the argument that maybe Holiday is more important or whatever. But I tried to sort them out as best I could and came up with what I came up with.
It's a lot of work that goes into that. I mean, anytime you make like a tier list, it's got to be just scratching all ends of your brain, like making sure you don't mess anything up, forget anybody. Did you have any moments where you're like, how did I forget this person? You had to just shift everything around.
Yeah, well, the Knicks trade obviously threw a wrench. Like we published the first part. We published the first part before the trade, and then it happened like as we were finishing up the whole series. So we rearranged it and basically we were able to swap Randall and Towns as second options for the Knicks and Wolves, and that really threw a wrench in it. But they were already two of the strongest 5 teams anyway, so they really just solidified themselves there. Now I've lost my train of thought. Where are we going on all this?
Go ahead, Jack.
No, I mean, the whole thing is interesting. So I'm just looking here. I'll share a screen just so the YouTube viewers can see what I'm talking about. This is the final rankings that Ben came up with, and obviously you can see the Celtics. This is Tatum in 4th, Brown, KP in 3rd, then Drew and Derek here. But what I find the most interesting is you look all the way down here, and the Lakers still have a number 1, and yet there's a whole lot of teams in front of them because they
see that was the part, that's kind of why I did the whole project. I thought Philadelphia being where they were was interesting because you really think they solidified themselves across the board. But those spots with Oubre, especially, they're kind of – he played well last season, but he's kind of a trick-or-treat guy. So there was definitely some surprise teams there.
Definitely. And I mean, you look at the bottom, and I noticed there's only 2 teams with bottom 10 in every single category. And see, this is how my brain works. I'm just like looking to be cynical. Utah and Toronto, even Detroit, Sam's Pistons, because Sam's a secondary Pistons fan for whatever reason. It got a 19th.
Jalen
got 18th.
My thing.
He's climbing him up the ranks, but no, you look at Tatum, you look at Jaylen Brown, and I mean, we can use this sort of transition into like, I mean, Joe Mazzulla has them refusing to use the word like title defense because he wants them to chase another title instead of like defend the one they have. Obviously, at least I would believe that the East got better. You look at Paul George, you look at Karl-Anthony Towns, unbiased as you can possibly be, because I know you were on the Celtics beat for a while. We haven't seen a repeat champion in 6 years. How likely do you think it is that the Celtics can get it done? And why do you think it could be different this year versus other years teams have tried to repeat as champions?
I honestly think they should be the overwhelming favorite. I think there's a lot of parity at the top of the league. But you look at the other teams, they all have some sort of hole you think of, where the Celtics don't. They have, like I said, Philadelphia has sort of the back end of the rotation. The Thunder are young. They've won a playoff series, so to win 4 would be a huge leap for them. The Timberwolves have now they have the Towns position to solve to see what Randall does to their rotation. And they also have Gobert, who has not been proven to be a 4 rounds kind of guy. Everywhere else, there's just holes. And so if the Celtics can keep Porzingis healthy, the biggest thing that I've been surprised about this postseason is just the mentality that the Celtics have come in. I guess it's not a huge surprise, but that they've come in sort of locked and ready to go. They feel like they have even a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, which is something you don't really expect. Their best players are still like at the start of their prime, so you shouldn't see some sort of decline or feeling some sort of sense of like comfort with where they are. They're still trying to prove themselves as like all-time greats, that sort of thing. So they just seem really locked in with the confidence that comes with winning a championship. So I don't see how you can have them. They're kind of, to me, on their own tier above everybody else. to start the season. I guess it depends on injuries and all that, but you know what I'm saying.
The injuries are tough because I think they should like be towards the top, right? They should have as good of a chance to repeat as anybody. But I do worry just because of the wear and tear. I'm not like saying anyone's going to get injured because historically this team, the core, the guys that are the guys, don't really get hurt. But they now have played deep into the playoffs year after year. You had 3 of the starting 5 in the Olympics, and Jalen would have been there too, but they snubbed him or whatever. Does that add any concerns for you in terms of that, or do you just think they're going to be able to manage that as the season goes along? Do you think we're going to see more opportunities for rotation guys to step up in, let's say, Drew Holiday minutes? Like in the 2 preseason games, he really hasn't played that much. Horford hasn't even played in the preseason yet. Do you think that's going to be a massive emphasis for the Celtics as they?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that's what we've seen from the preseason games. Who knows how they'll actually play during the season, but they certainly, Pritchard has been amazing. They still have Hauser, and you'd like to see someone like Lonnie Walker or somebody else step up and be able to play some minutes, ease the load on especially Tatum and Brown throughout the course of the season. And you hope that, having Porzingis out doesn't put too much onus on Horford to keep him healthy throughout the season. But you just look at it, they had they won the conference by 14 games last season. So even if they take their foot off the gas pedal a little bit, they should be able to stay somewhere up at the top there regardless. So I would expect them to dial back minutes for a lot of guys. And it seems like they have the right guys to do it. I believe in their depth.
Now, I don't know how closely have you been watching Celtics preseason action in Abu Dhabi? Have you?
I watched a little bit more this morning. I watched like the first halves of both games, and then I watched both games like kind of on fast speed this morning. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty caught up.
Mm-hmm. Just obviously the Jordan Walsh minutes were essential to everybody's viewing pleasure. After the second game, Joe Mazzulla came out and he said, like, it's good to have that on tape now. And just thinking of a coach going into a preseason games that objectively will not matter in they don't matter anymore. Like currently, like they mattered for the 60 minutes or 48 minutes, however long, whatever. Yeah, they were there.
Continent.
and they don't matter anymore. Hearing Joe Mazzulla go, yeah, now we have the Nuggets on tape after 2 preseason games is like, what the hell are you talking about, bro? Do you have a favorite? Yeah, do you have a favorite Joe Mazzulla? I'll call it quirk, for a lack of a better term. Like over the past X amount of years, 1, were you in the fire Joe Mazzulla camp after 1 year? 2, what is your favorite, I guess, Mazzulla-ism, I suppose?
Yeah. I kind of was on the I don't think he's ready train after the first season. But I was definitely wrong on that. I just thought I didn't know he was going to develop so fast as a coach. I feel like he did improve a ton from year 1 to year 2 in terms of just understanding rotations, understanding the whole timeout thing, like not being so stubborn, I guess, was the thing. And that leads into the next part, I guess, is just like his intensity is something else, man. I don't know, like the part that cracked me up the most was the thing. Was it Smart where he like did a somersault and then tried to wrestle him or something? That seems like yeah. I feel like he's prepared to fight anyone at any moment. So it was that, and the him attempting to block a shot last year was pretty great too.
And then he got like reprimanded, like he got instructed not to do so anymore. I was devastated. I did a whole Celtics blog article on like who would have told him this. I forget.
And I saw it the other day again for some reason, and then afterwards he was just like, well, I didn't want him to get into a rhythm or something. It was like, all right.
He was like, well, I tell our guys like no shots after the whistle. I had to get it on. I couldn't sit there and watch it.
I guess it shows his commitment to the details. So
You know what's incredible about
Yeah.
him though is like he truly seems to be a people person. And as awkward as he is in press conferences, like I've been there, Jack is there far more frequently than me. Like he's so different with us, and you can imagine him being with the players. And it's so impressive that he got them to buy in year one. I'm just excited to see if we see like another step up from Joe this year, especially keeping them locked in, having already won the title. I think that's his new challenge.
PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, and unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. One Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on PrizePicks for every week in September. That's right, only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal on PrizePicks because it's gone when September ends. Also, you can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. Sam and I used PrizePicks all season long while on How Bout Them Celtics pregame shows. We picked Jason Tatum dunks, we picked Drew Holiday steals, we picked a ton of stuff, especially during the finals when Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, we were kind of preying on their downfall. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly. When you play $5, that's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they've all bought into his mentality, and that's a good thing, I guess. Maybe not for the media, I guess, but it'll be good for the actual product on the floor.
He terrifies me. Every time I go to ask him a question, like you say, he's ready to fight anybody at any time. I feel like if I ask him something that pisses him off, he's just gonna jump off the podium and start kicking my ass. Like I think he's like just prepared to wrestle me. And I'm not gonna do shit. I'm a lose. Are you kidding? Jeez,
It would
man.
be great to see him just go all out one of these press conferences.
I mean, he's like, yeah, he's not afraid. Like he's done the verbal equivalent of it. Like I remember Bobby Manning wore a tie last year and he goes, "You wearing a tie?" Like not what I expected to see at the press conference. And he called out a Gary Washburn article from 10 years ago about taking too many threes. And I asked him, I was like, "How are you doing, Joe? What about this?" And I just got right into my question. He goes, "You didn't let me answer." I was like, "I'm sorry." It's just like, oh my God.
And then the clip went nuts. Everybody saw that.
I've had people. I went to like a rec league softball game with people I've never met before, and they brought up that clip not knowing that I was the person who asked the question.
Oh, really?
I'm like, give me a fucking break, man.
Yeah. Yeah, he was on Gary for a while last year. I feel like they came to an understanding, I guess.
As far as I know, but man, it is you can't slip up in the slightest. We've talked about, I know internally, like we should do a media basketball game, and my first thought is like, who would Joe lose respect for most if we played a media basketball game? And just half of us are
a great question. I would
you have to have his
myself
respect
in that regard.
It's true.
It's true.
Man, Joe Mazzulla is his own entity. Getting back, I guess, to the Celtics, I need to ask you what is like the most important national media question, and that is Luke Cornett, Xavier Tillman, or Neemias Queta, Ben, for the Celtics backup center, because that's clearly the most important thing going on in the Celtics world right now. You talk about a summer where they brought back the exact same roster, the exact same team, and we were left with scraps for content, and we spent maybe a cumulative 20 hours talking about who could take the backup center minutes out of 3 guys who they signed to minimum contracts. And so I'll pose the question to you. Have you seen anything from those 3 guys that you think they can effectively take over the Horford-Porzingis minutes? Because, I mean, Horford's 38. Porzingis is going to miss X amount of time, and even when he does come back, if I'm the Celtics, I'm playing him 20 minutes a night. Like he is basically a playoff tool that will be used sparingly throughout the regular season at this point. Are you confident in those 3? Do you see a potential concern there with those guys taking minutes? And I guess if you want to include the preseason too, what have you seen there that is like a plus or a minus for those guys?
Yeah, I think overall that group obviously doesn't have like the spacing that Horford and Porzingis provide, but I think Cornet's the most reliable. He's going to make the fewest mistakes. He's just smart on both ends of the floor. I was watching this morning; they were praising his passing, which is something they obviously love out of the center position. Tillman, I just don't think can do it for huge stretches. He's kind of like a change of pace center to me. And Keita, I don't think I've seen enough from him more than just like as an energy guy. So that's how I would expect it to shake out. It seems like that's sort of what they're going with. They didn't play Horford obviously in Abu Dhabi, but Kornet got the start, and then they brought in Tillman as a reserve. I don't know if that's like the strongest group, but they're certainly a good tandem to like eat minutes for the first half of the season, I would say.
Yeah, and I think Cornette really showed us a lot in these two games. As silly as it sounds to put weight into preseason, like he's gelling with the starters on a very high level. He's connecting through the short roll, hitting guys for open threes. He looked great. I'm very excited what we saw from him, and Jax is excited as anybody. Tillman's sinking his threes, and that should give him a new layer of production.
Yeah, that would be huge if he can consistently hit threes. That's a huge piece for them.
Mm-hmm. I have an ongoing bet with another Celtics podcaster that Tillman will shoot 38% from three on at least 100 attempts, and so I'm feeling pretty good going through the preseason as he's.
That'd be nice. He looked good from the corners and what I saw from the preseason. So if he can keep that up, that's all they need.
Tillman is my what's the word for it? I'm a fan of him no matter how silly it may sound. I'm always going to root for Xavier Tillman, and I think he's way better than he probably is in reality, guy. I'm just like, I'm all in on Tillman. I think he can be really good. That's just my irrational fandom player in the league right now.
Yeah. I think Memphis loved him. So
yeah.
And he was on their good team. So he's definitely got the talent. If he can just be consistent with his shooting, I think he'll be a huge piece for them, especially in these first couple months.
Yeah, Sam's a huge Jaden Springer fan. Do you have an irrational NBA player fandom throughout the years? Just somebody who, whether or not they panned out or not, just like they come in the league or they join the Celtics or they join a team and you're like, yeah, that guy's going to be really good. And then
it's
just like
I thought Nenad Kristic was going to be huge for the Celtics when they traded.
Physically, he was a large individual.
I was all for the Perkins trade. I think I was one of the few people who was like, didn't see what he was adding to the team at that point, but I don't know. I guess I was wrong on that one too.
That's a good one. I like that name a lot. That's
yeah. And then he was gone, like never to be heard from again at season's end. So yeah,
man. Yeah. Celtics obviously going into the season as, like you mentioned, I would say pretty heavy favorites. You look at the Knicks trade, Karl-Anthony Towns. You look at Paul George. You look at the Bucks, who I feel like everyone's just kind of forgetting about the Bucks. And as much as Doc Rivers is, I suppose you can call him a question mark. Like if Giannis is healthy, if Dame is playing in better shape, which he looks to be. I threw a preseason game on while Sunday Night Football was delayed for an hour last night, and he made like 5 threes in 2 minutes, and it was like, oh, all right, sure. I guess if he's going to do that, they'll be pretty good. Yeah, all right, buddy. No Pistons propaganda here. We're not. This is ridiculous. Who do you think, if you had to, you don't have to go through the whole list, but like tier listing some of those top teams, like you mentioned, you think the Celtics should be overwhelming favorites. Do you think any of them can beat the Celtics in a playoff series? And if not, who do you think is the closest to getting there? And you can include like the Magic or Pacers or Heat if you'd like to, like just anybody in the East. Like who do you think can contend with them? I guess.
Yeah. I think the Knicks probably have the best chance of beating them. I think obviously the Bucks, any team with Giannis, I think could win a series. Same with the Sixers. If Embiid is like fully healthy in a series, you never know. But again, like I just see weaknesses there that the Celtics don't have. I think sort of the ends of those rotations are awfully thin. The Bucks have a lot of age issues, like Lopez, Middleton, like who's supposed to be their main defender against Brown and Tatum? They don't really have one. I mean, Middleton, I guess, but I think he had 2 ankle surgeries. He was already he was already in rough shape. So that's a weakness there. Same with the Sixers. They don't really match up with Tatum and Brown that well. But the Knicks do. So they have OG and Bridges. That's a hell of a tandem to throw at Tatum and Brown, and that's really like the first option to stop or slow the Celtics, I guess. So, yeah, like I just see them on different. I think the Knicks and the Sixers are like a tier below, and then I have I do have the Bucks a little bit lower than them because of those age issues, I guess.
What do you make of Doc's time in Milwaukee? You know, like you were on the beat when Doc was here. Do you think he's got it in him to turn it around? I mean, the lack of productivity from that team after he arrived last year, I don't think anybody would have predicted. They were 31-13. They finished around 500 when he was actually the coach. So, like, do you think he's going to fix that with a summer of time to work with these guys? He talked plenty about Dame being out of shape last year because he was afraid to hurt himself before a trade. Do you think that relationship can be mended with like him and the Bucks fans?
Yeah. No, I think they should definitely be better. I think with having a full summer of Dame on the team, knowing what they need from him and Giannis, they need to improve their pick and roll partnership. I think they added some nice pieces. They added Trent and Prince for minimum contract guys, Trent and Prince and DeLon Wright, I think. Those guys are solid players. I don't know if they're like playoff rotation like staples, but those are regular season guys who will help them win games. I think they're going to be a lot better of a regular season team. Playoffs is a different question. Getting that whole team healthy and getting production from those minimum salary signings. It's just a lot to ask for all that to come into play. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's also a little strange to be like to have us be talking about the Knicks as a real threat, because they are, but like historically they are a joke, and it's really weird having them towards the top.
Yeah, and I mean, even them, like they have an awesome starting five. They didn't have a center, so getting Towns made a lot of sense because he's the best available guy they could get. But as a rim protector, they don't have one. And that's another huge deal. So it's just like another hole, and the loss of DiVincenzo there kind of hurts the back end of their rotation. So again, there's just small gaps here and there. And if the Celtics, if they can, if like their end of rotation guys have this confidence from like a championship run, you see it with Pritchard. It's like, what if he really pops this season? What if Hauser was good last year too? So
still,
you just expect another year from him. If Tillman gives them something, these are like bench guys. You have White and Holiday. Those that's the project that I was talking about. They are the separators for the Celtics.
I feel like the Celtics have just adapted the same. I always reference the Grizzlies and the Heat in terms of like, all right, these guys were in the G League, but now they're playing NBA minutes and they're actually good. Like Sam Hauser was a two-way guy, then he's $11 million a year, and I think that's probably one of the better contracts in the league, especially if he continues to improve. Luke Cornett was in the G League and on 10-day contracts, and now you're seeing him start with the starters in preseason. You're like, wow, it doesn't actually look like a mess, and you're like, okay, that's probably a pretty good thing. You even look at like they traded second for Tillman. They drafted Pritchard late in the first round, and he didn't really play 1 year. Now he's playing real minutes. And then you look at the Bucks, and you're like, all right, Andre Jackson's sitting there. He could be good, but he's probably not going to play. You're going to depend on these 35-year-old vets you're bringing in, which is fine. But in the long run, like if you're just rotating those guys in and out every year, what's it going to do? The Knicks found one in like Miles McBride, and the Sixers have done an okay job a little bit, even though Paul Reed, I guess, was the best example. And now he's in Detroit. Like, I like the Celtics. When you combine that with the fact that they are just so stylistically ahead, it seems, of the rest of the East, like they have a rim protector in Kristaps Porzingis, and the Bucks have that in Brook Lopez. But the difference is, if you take Brook Lopez out of the paint, he's not getting back before he gets blown by. Like he's just not quick enough anymore. You look at the Knicks, and they've got the wing defenders, but can Karl Anthony Towns keep up on the perimeter? They've got the offense, but can he keep up on defense? Is Jalen Brunson helps him with the offense, but can he hold up on defense like Derek White and Drew Holiday can? No, and that's fine. But like,
Yeah, and
there's
I
just
think
so
Brunson,
few holes.
I think Brunson, I expect him to be the same guy, but
Yeah,
you have to wonder with a small guy like that, like, can he sustain that level of play, which was like extraordinary for how many seasons? You expect him to come right back and do the same, but like those guys just don't last forever at that level, I guess.
Isaiah.
So
I mean, it's
another
not
question.
exactly
Yeah.
the same, but
It feels
kind of
very the same though. Like especially even the way like the city backs them. Like it is the same exact love that all of us as fans had for that team, and it didn't last. It didn't last. You're absolutely right. Like we watched them lose in the first round, then they make the conference finals, and then Danny Ainge was like, "Yeah, this is not going to work forever."
I love going to watch football in person. It might not be Sam's taste, but I personally love going to watch a Pats game, even though they're not in the best place right now. I saw them play the Chiefs last year, and even though Kansas City absolutely won the game, it was still a great time, and I make sure to get all my tickets through Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Me and my friends are going to see the Red Sox tonight, and guess what? Game Time was the choice. You can pick the great deals, and like I just mentioned, you can filter out all the fees, you can filter out everything to make sure you are getting the best deal possible. That is my favorite thing, getting to know what the exact price is before I purchase, because I know I'm getting the best deal on Game Time. You can see the view from your seat, you get the lowest price guaranteed, even if it's canceled. Cancellation protection is great. It's the perfect app to buy all your tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and everything else. I saw Noah Khan this summer, and guess what? Game Time came in clutch. All in pricing, again, my favorite thing. Toggling this feature shows you the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that came with some injury stuff, but that's a question with a tough guy that's going to just be getting pounded in the paint like for 2-3 years consecutively. So it's one thing to get to that level, it's another to like sustain it for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm. Looking out west, I during the playoffs, like as the Celtics had not yet won, I went on a rant on the show and said it was embarrassing that the Mavs got out of the West, because I mean the way to beat them is just guarding them one-on-one and living with tough Luka shots. And as you see them go through the West, it's let's double them, let's let them make a pass, let's do this. It's just like, I know Joe Mazzulla is like a good coach, but like, how did we not like come to the realization that maybe we shouldn't just double one of the best passers in the world and we should live with some tough great shots? Like, it's just math at that point, right? Like but looking at how the West improved, because I would argue the Mavs got better. As much as Klay Thompson had a tough out last season, I still think he's a fine player, and I still think he'll help their spacing. I like Najee Marshall. I think the Nuggets obviously have a question mark, but the Thunder obviously added two huge pieces. You don't want to count or discount the rest of the Eastern Conference, but you look ahead at a potential another Celtics berth in the finals, and you look at these teams. Obviously, I would say the top end talent is a little bit better out West collectively. Do you worry about Jokic playing the Celtics because they didn't beat him last year and they were the one team? Do you worry about the Thunder, which I would argue, and I mean, I think your rankings agree with the starting options, are probably the next team up in the don't have any holes rankings. Like, if you had to, I guess, look at those teams like you did with the East, which ones were you most from a Celtics perspective?
Yeah, I think the Thunder are the most complete of those teams. Just Hartenstein from the Knicks, like, I think it was underrated how good defensively he was last year. He did a lot of other things too, but he's just a great role play. He's averaged like 8 points, but it's like his impact was, triple that or whatever. But and Caruso, those are two of the best role players in the league. But they're like, can SGA be the best player on a championship team? Can Jalen Williams be? He's going to have to play at an all-star level, I think, for them to be like a championship contender. I like Chet a lot. So they're like the most complete team, I think. The Timberwolves are kind of dependent on how good Anthony Edwards is this year, because I think that losing Towns is going to change the shape of their team. Randall, I'm not a Randall fan, so I feel like that was
Neither am I.
I'm not a huge like Towns guy, but he's reliable in what he does, I guess. So, oh shoot, did I just lose you guys? Oh
No,
Okay.
we're here. Both of us have awful internet at times. Me more than him. So if we both froze, it wouldn't be the most shocking.
Yeah, it's definitely not you.
Yeah, it's Towns, like you know what he is. Randall is like, I don't think you know what you're getting from him night to night. So it's kind of hard to like construct a team around that, especially one where you have Gobert too, which adds like another wrinkle of like, where what does this team look like in the playoffs? Who do they rely on? That team just has question marks there, but Edwards could be the best player in the league this year. You never know. So that team should be everybody's good. The Mavericks, I think, got a lot better. Clay, if he can shoot like he always does, just that alone unlocks something that they didn't have in the finals. Yeah, I feel like and the Nuggets, that was the team the Celtics were the most afraid of last year, and I think losing Caldwell Pope is like another minor hindrance, and you wonder how many of those they can sustain. But to have Jokic at the top of the bill is something that the Celtics don't really have an answer for, and not a lot of teams have something the Celtics don't have an answer for.
It's funny because I've said to Jack on here, it really feels like Denver's playing Jenga with their team. They are seeing how many pieces they can take out and not pay until the tower collapses. And I mean, listen, KCP does not make it so you don't have Jokic. You're absolutely right. But, it felt like they missed Bruce Brown and Jeff Green at times last year. And in the playoffs, they really weren't able to rely on the young guys to give them what they thought they'd get. The feeling in Minnesota is somewhat similar. I thought Cat looked rough in the conference finals. Like they were asking him to post up at times. He wasn't really able to do so. And maybe Randall can give him that, but I'm with you. Like when I watch Randall play, it just feels like he's like fumbling around and trying to do something. And he's just going to kick the ball out of bounds or shoot it off the top of the backboard or just waste a lot of time pushing the ball.
Yeah. I mean, Dan Devine at Yahoo, he's a Knicks guy. And he always makes the case. Randall made 2 All-NBA teams the last 3 years. He's only one of how many guys to do
one
that.
One of the great mysteries.
It is for me because I'm like, he made the All-NBA teams, but do you think of him as an All-NBA guy, I guess, is the question, and you don't really. So he's like every other year, you never know what you're going to get. And with a new team, it takes time to gel these things. So
can you just imagine like giving up your longest tenured guy for Randall? Like hearing that news, ingesting that news. Wait, this guy was on our team for 9 years and we got who?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a gamble, but I mean, that team's all about Edwards. I think if he reaches some insane level, then they'll be a serious contender. If he's the same player as he was last year, they're probably about the same as last year, which is maybe a conference finals team, but probably not a championship team.
What are your thoughts on Anthony Edwards? I like Anthony Edwards. I feel like the hype has gotten him, I don't want to say more credit than deserved, but he's a great scorer. Don't get me wrong, but like not really a facilitator just yet. He's a good point of attack defender, but I
No.
feel like I don't know, like I feel like the hype train and the new age of is this guy cool or not has amplified him into something. Maybe he's not as
That's
much
what Tatum sucks.
anymore. Yeah, that's what Tatum sucks, clearly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if it was based solely on cool, I think Edwards
Aura.
would be the best player in the league.
Aura is huge.
But yeah, he definitely has, another level to get. But just the way that he moves on the court, like the way that his feel for the game is just, I mean, it's just so explosive and so incredible to watch. You just imagine, like, if this guy, like you said, like if he can get the playmaking aspect, if he can consistently hit his pull-up shot, then that dude's going to be like an absolutely devastating force, I think, in the league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I guess if we're talking about aura and popularity, I want to ask you about Luka Doncic too. I have gone out on a limb and have gotten, I suppose, fairly killed for saying I think Tatum is better than Luka. That was obviously during the finals, and I stand on it for the sake of standing on what I said, just not to double back. Because I mean, I'm pretty sure there were literally stats that Luka got blown by at historic rates in the NBA Finals, which, yeah,
Be a good toll
and
booth operator.
yeah, Luka Doncic is
Yeah.
incredible, right? He's obviously one of the best offensive players we've seen ever, I guess, if you want to put it that way. But when you're giving up that much on defense, like, do you fall under the category of that takes a lot away, or he's so good at offense that doesn't matter as much? Like in the
It's tough because you look at, like, you have to build a team completely differently around Tatum than you do Doncic. Like, I don't know if you just swap the two out, if Tatum can lead that team to the finals, just being like an offensive hub the way Doncic is. So that makes me feel like I would have him on which I did. I do have him kind of on a higher level,
Yeah.
a little bit. But then again, you're like, I keep coming back to Tatum. I think he might be the most. I think I'm trying. My argument is that, like, he's the most complete player in the league. Like, he
absolutely
defensively, offensively, playmaking. There's not anything he can't do.
Yes.
And that is something for Doncic. But the offense is just so incredible that he can lead a team that doesn't belong in the finals to the finals, I guess.
Exactly.
So
that's a good way to put it.
So that's how I kind of separate them, but I wouldn't argue with anyone who has Tatum
Okay.
on the same level or whatever. That stuff kind of,
good to know.
I feel like Jokic is number one. We can argue about. I have Embiid much lower than a lot of other people do. I have, I don't know. I have Jokic on one level and then a whole group of guys below him.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair.
Okay. I'm just making sure I'm not. I got very said that during the finals, but that's all right. Yeah, man. I think the thing that I said about Tatum, and I think it pretty evenly goes with what you said, is he's not necessarily eyebrow raisingly. That's not a word. He's not like elite at anything. Like Luka, you're like, okay, yeah, look at that shot making, look at that playmaking, like that. He's could be the best in the world. You look at Jokic, like, oh, he's the best in the world at that. Tatum's not necessarily like catching anybody's eye in that regard with anything he does, but he's not like anywhere below great at anything. Like he's great or better at every single skill in the league. Like he's a great facilitator at this point, which he doesn't get enough credit for. He's a great defender. Probably one of the most versatile defenders in the league, which he doesn't get credit for because he's Jason Tatum and offense is the narrative everywhere. The scoring and like obviously he didn't make any jumpers at Team USA, and that was woohoo. Everyone loved that. But I don't know. I think he gets. I think the Celtics in general have reached the Chiefs level of they're so good that F those guys. Like they're not that good. Like let's just.
We're also all annoying, I think, too. I don't.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, the thing that impressed me most about Tatum last year was just like his buy-in to the team concept. There were a lot of games where like he's just getting everything within the flow of the game. he's getting all, and then he'd be like, "Oh, I have 18 points. Let me score 10 straight real quick." Like that was the most impressive thing about him last year. Was like he would be like, "Oh yeah, I have to average 28 points, and I only have 18, so I'll just go score 10 real quick, and then go back to like playing within the flow of the game." That didn't happen quite as much in the playoffs when he didn't have the shot, but they had so much talent it didn't matter.
With Tatum, it's funny, like even yesterday, I think after the game, they asked him about the MVP, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't really care. I'm not gonna try and win this and cost the Celtics basketball games because I'm trying to win MVP." Do you think realistically he can win the MVP within this team? Jack and I have had this conversation. It doesn't feel that way, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I don't think so with this team. I feel like before, I think like the year before last was really like his chance to do that, and he wasn't quite like on the level of the highest level of guys, but yeah, I feel like no one's going to recognize that, like, oh, he might have been the best within the flow of his own team, I guess. Like that's just not going to be rewarded as an MVP. It's just like a fact of his life right now. So the fact that he buys into that is like the key to unlocking the Celtics, I think. So I think everyone's kind of on the same page there that no, he's probably not going to win the MVP, but as long as he keeps doing what he's doing and they win championships, they'll be, he'll cement his legacy as well as he could with an MVP.
They should have an Einstein Award for him, like being smart enough to realize he doesn't have to be the guy. He can just sacrifice. They need to give him credit for that. Not enough credit being given around these parts.
Yeah, it was interesting, like the best player on the best team argument last year, but I just don't think like he'll get rewarded by enough of the voters to be in that conversation.
I feel like the Celtics would have to win like 70 games, and he would have to be like very efficient
no aura
to get close. Yeah, just not cool enough. I feel like MVP discourse has gotten so broken. Like, when's the I just looked here. Like, when's the last time an MVP was on the team who won the title? And it was Curry in 15. It's like, I mean, it's 10 straight years. The best player in the league has failed to do what the best player in the league should do. Like, how does it make any sense? Like, what is the point of it? It's just, oh, this guy had super cool stats, even though his team was all right. Like, it almost feels like to win the MVP, you have to sacrifice being like the best possible team now, like, because you have to put up, like, if you're going to win MVP, you have to put up close to triple double. It feels like at this point, like Jokic or Embiid or Luka, or I mean, even when Giannis won, he was averaging 30, 14, and 6. Like, if you don't put up those stats, you can't win MVP. But if you're putting up those stats, it probably means your team's not as good as it possibly could be to compete with the rest of the teams who are better built. I don't know. It's just kind of like, it feels like it's gotten backwards at this point. I'm not saying like if Tatum averages, if they win 70 games, he averages like 22, 4 and 4. Like, I get not voting him MVP because like there's players with much significantly better stats, but like, and I don't even think Tatum should have won last year. That's not the argument I'm saying. I just feel like it's gotten so diluted into this guy scored 70. That's the MVP right there. Like, why? Like, what is?
But you're right. Look at the Sixers, and they're saying, that they're like happy that Embiid's not pursuing an MVP. You know what I mean? Like they need him to dial it back and be his best for the playoffs. So I wonder that's interesting. I wonder if that is a thing where like
is that possible?
Chasing the MVP is not the what's that?
Can he be his best in the playoffs? Is that even possible for Embiid?
It's a great question. He hasn't been in 10 years. So I don't believe it. I guess I'll believe it when I see it. Is what the thing.
Oh, I'm excited. I just want to see basketball again, man. I'm over the preseason. I'm over the off season. It's the Celtics.
I know it's the thing with the Celtics because you're like, what do we talk about?
I know there's nothing.
They won the championship.
It was brutal.
You can't say what do they need to do better. They brought back everyone, so you can't say how are they going to look different. It's just going to be more of the same, and you hope it comes out in the same result in the end.
I mean, we did a video. We've done a video every day for like a long time now, and this summer was like what the hell we talk about today?
was
Let's
hell.
talk about them working out in Nasir Little like 2 weeks ago. Like, there's a video. Gershon Yabusele dunked on LeBron, guys. Look at that. Like, there's
That
our
one did
video.
well.
For
We
today.
Yeah.
timed that
It
one
did.
perfectly. We didn't even. It wasn't even about him dunking on LeBron. We did like a Yabusele video because he tweeted or said that he would like come play for the Celtics again to Gary, and then he dunked on LeBron that day. So we loved that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a guy I kind of forgotten about with the Sixers, but
Rightfully
hey,
so.
if he is like what he was in the Olympics, then that's a nice piece for them. But I
Man.
fear that he's going to be more the Yabu of the Celtics than he will be the Yabu of the Olympics.
Yabusele, what a name. I never thought I'd see the day where he was back on NBA soil getting some shots up. That's crazy.
You think back, like how much of a joke it was. Like he was like a human, like mascot.
Yeah.
It's like,
He was dabbing after making garbage time threes, and like,
now it's like
he was like
he's
a level
serious
above
basketball.
Taco.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's going to be hard to take him seriously, but I guess
I think Taco's halfback too. The Breakers signed him for their preseason tour in the NBA. So
That's
he'll
right.
be he's playing Yabu tonight. He's playing the Sixers tonight. So
Is he really?
It'd be lovely if the Sixers lost that game.
Man, Yabu versus Taco. What a world. Before we let you go here, so we have 3 sections of this podcast. We do Celtics talk, we do NBA talk, and we do what we call the rat list, which is basically when we complain about stuff that has nothing to do with basketball. And like,
I like
Sam, do you have a rat list today to give an example to Ben?
Rat. Yeah. So as you can see, I have this
Put the
thing
rat
on
on
my
the
neck
screen.
because I hurt my neck. Whatever. I had trouble turning my head. Girlfriend consistently sitting on my right, which is the direction I hurt my neck on, and she knows this, and she'll like ask me something, and I'll turn quick, and then I'll hurt myself. So rat list her for
standing on the
putting
wrong
me-
side.
Yeah. Well, you've never seen the Family Guy where he has the stroke and she tries to hand him the beer to his stroke arm and he's absolutely disgusted? It's the same thing.
Rat list for me is I play pickup basketball at like the park across my street from my apartment, and there's this guy I play with. His name is Oak, and I met him, and I don't think he speaks English well. Whatever, he's a nice guy, but he doesn't know when we're on defense, and so the other team will have the ball, and he'll just stand there at the top of the key. He'll check up, and then his guy will just walk by him, and he'll stand there. I'm like, dude, please, like we're on defense now, bro. Like come on. And so we're just giving up like mid-range after mid-range after mid-range. So like rat list, I guess the disconnection because he doesn't really know what's happening. So if you get the gist of the rat list, traffic, Boston drivers are often on the rat list. I got rear-ended on Palm Ave a few weeks ago. That made the rat list because this dude got mad at me after he rear-ended me. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how is that my fault? So if you'd like to participate, this is our
my rat list is growing as I get older. It's just being old is like a rat list. Like I have tennis elbow. I don't even play tennis. I don't even know how that happened. So there's trying to get a 5-year-old to the bus stop every morning. And like literally like anything in the world can like change the course of your day. Like she can just lose her mind over like a shirt or socks or something, and then your like whole day is just blown up. It's intense, but something to look forward to for you guys, I guess.
No, not at all. I mean, I will have kids someday, but oh man, I think about it sometimes, and like the two of us are pretty busy people. Like we do this. Like I have a job. Jack is working hard on the beat full time. Like we feel like we don't have a lot of time. I can't imagine being a parent on top of all of that. It's terrifying.
Yeah, it's all the hard work and stuff you expect, but then it's like just the randomness of like a 5-year-old who doesn't have any like gauge of their emotions can just like go from 0 to 100 in an instant at any time of your day. It's just something you don't anticipate.
Well, my dad always told me, he's like, at that age, any inconvenience is the worst thing that's ever happened in your life, because your life is 5 years old, and so that is literally the worst thing that's ever happened to you.
I feel that way. That's why we have this part of the show, is every inconvenience is the worst thing.
It's definitely true, man. You just you can't do anything but laugh at it sometimes when they're just freaking losing their mind over some toy that costs like 30 cents.
So, Ben, did you grow up in Massachusetts? Like, are you from the Boston area at
Yeah,
all,
I
or
grew
did
up
you
on the
just-
Cape in Barnstable.
Okay. Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
So you are familiar with Massachusetts drivers and
Oh yeah.
do you have a favorite Massachusetts driver story from all of your years in the Boston area / Massachusetts?
Oh, I would probably have a million, but my two least favorite things. One is like the honking when the light changes, like before you even have a second to like to do anything. It drives me insane. That, and then I don't live in the city anymore, thank God. But the parking in the city with like the snow, when they would not even, they just tow your car and be like, "Oh, we just decided to tow this entire street for no reason." And then we towed it to Quincy. I remember one time they towed it to Quincy, and I was like, "That's not even in Boston." Like,
no,
aren't we supposed to keep everything in Boston if we're in Boston? I had to take a cab to go pick up my car from the tow place and pay them. It was like insane. Whatever.
I moved to Austin a month ago, and so I haven't brought my car in yet, but I know I need to eventually just because like I want to have my car, and I'm just dreading. I know it's gonna get towed. I just like I'm talking to my dad, and he's like, mine never got towed. I'm like, dude, shut up, man. Like, come on, like it's not the same. My roommate's cars, we have a parking lot behind our apartment, and I don't have a spot because like I have 3 other roommates, and 2 of them have our 2 spots for the apartment, whatever. But their parking pass like expired on like a certain date, but instead of like emailing them or texting them, our like landlord like just put a note on their cars the day before it expired, and they just didn't see it, and so they got towed from the parking lot. Like both cars like took like our whole parking lot was just gone because they just towed everything from the one. It was like,
yep.
What the
they
hell?
would do that to entire streets. I remember like it just they post it like at midnight after your car was parked there, and then just tow the entire street to Quincy. Oh my God.
Terrible. I hope to hell it doesn't tow me to Quincy. That'd be the worst.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Man. But anyways, I think that's all we got. Thank you for entertaining the rat list. That is our end of show tradition. But we appreciate you joining us. Would you mind telling everyone listening where to find your work, all that stuff? Because last time I tried to do the promo for our guest, I messed up the wording, and
you can find me. You can find me on Yahoo. Sports, there all the time, pumping out stuff, previews right now, and then I'm on Twitter at @Rohrbach, so find me there. Even though I just tweet out links and stop engaging with crazy people, but
smart. That's game right there. But thank you, Ben, for joining us. We appreciate you.
Yeah, anytime. Happy to do it.
All right. Huge thank you to Ben for joining us for the show. We appreciate him very much. Again, check out his work at Yahoo Sports. He's on Twitter at Ben Rohrbach. If you're on YouTube, it was on the screen the whole time. Go type it in. Go give him a follow. Boston guy. So it's always nice to talk to somebody from the area, especially when they've been on the Celtics beat before as well. But I think that just about does it. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe to How About Them Celtics on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple, and I'll let Sam take it out.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening and watching. Make sure you subscribe, leave a like, comment, tell us what you thought of the interview. You can find us here every single morning. So if you hit the bell, you won't miss any of our content. New pods Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Game recaps coming at you the morning after each game, and other videos will be up in between to keep you busy. You can also find all pods and recaps on Spotify and Apple. So if you're more of an audio listener, that's fine. Go ahead, follow us, leave a 5-star review. We'd very much appreciate it. You can also find us via email. hbtcpod@gmail.com is the address for that. Probably just go through your emails on Wednesday, make an extra long email segment as we work through the week of no Celtics ball. But yes, get those emails in, hbtcpod@gmail.com. The socials are at How About Them C's for Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Facebook's just the name of the pod. All streams are there. They're on YouTube. They're on Twitter. Jack's Twitter's at Jack's1NBA. You can find him writing for Hardwood Houdini. Mine's at Sam LaFrance NBA. That's it for us. Bye.
Tic-tac-toe.